Alright guys, we're back with some more MX versus ATV Legends and the second set of tracks in the Throwback Track DLC. These tracks would be Capital City from Untamed and Savannah from Unleashed, and they're pretty cool. Capital City is pretty sweet. There's tons of different lines you can take, and it was kind of a tricky track, okay? It was kind of a tricky track. I tried my best to get, lines and laps that were acceptable for the video, and I think I did okay. And Savannah was pretty simple, but there's also kind of an interesting fact, I guess, about these tracks from past MX versus ATV games, and I'll talk about it when we get into the main part of the video and when we get to each track. So let's just jump into this and check out the first track, which would be Capital City from Untamed. Okay, here we go. Capital City from Untamed. Now, this track was done extremely well. You can ride it at night, during the day, or even in the rain. So, I will show you the rain, and you can kind of see the day and what it would be like when it's raining to some degree. So, you can ride it at 3 different times a day. Savannah, you can't do during the rain. I'm not sure if it's an open stadium. I guess I didn't pay much attention, but this is the only track that can be rode in the rain. The track is crazy good. It's really, really, really well done, and it was kind of tricky. So I do remember Capital City. I would say Capital City and Jefferson were some of my favorite Supercross tracks from Untamed, so I'm glad they did this. But if you remember right, before we start talking about this track, Capital City has been remade in a past MX vs. ATV game. If you remember, MX vs. ATV All Out had a stock track, I forget what it was called, but it was basically a remake or a reimagination of Capital City. And you guys were the first to point it out, so it has been remade or reimagined to some degree in a different MX vs. ATV game, but it is a bit different here. So that first lap you saw, it was okay, it was decent, and I actually got 2 back-to-back. I played on this track for at least an hour trying to get decent laps and hit the different lines, and I think we got most of the different lines that you can take on this track. The triples in All Out were way shorter, way easier to hit. They're a bit bigger here, and this section's a bit different. So I feel like it probably was done better to the original in this game than it was in All Out, but we have had it in MX versus ATV All Out before we got it here. So really well done. The toughest part about this track, for sure the toughest part, is this back section, because you hit it off the start straight one way, but then when you come back around, you hit it a different way. Here we hit that ginormous quad. I know that lap wasn't that great, but I never got that quad again. I was missing preload or whatever, or just wasn't in the right gear, and yeah, it was a mess. So we did get that quad, but there actually is a different way to hit it. I think we hit it on this lap. Yeah, and I started here because I couldn't do it. So you hit a quad here, and then you can go triple, double. So I had a waypoint marker set up. You can kind of see it there by the finish line. I had it set up there because I just couldn't do it. It was like second gear. Third gear was like too much. The bike was bogging down, and then second gear. But it was really, really picky. It's very, very picky how you hit it. Now, I'm sure really good players. I've seen some very, very good MX versus ATV Legends players hitting tracks, and it's unbelievable how fast they are and how good they are, and how good they are at timing the preload and just using the clutch boost and when to use it and all that stuff. So if you're a really good player, probably isn't a big deal, but it is a big deal for me because I'm not very good. But yeah, this track is super fun. Tons of different lines, tons of different ways to hit it. And yeah, I mean, there's just so much variety. I feel like online, this race could be crazy because if you don't mess up, you're probably going to win. If you do mess up, you're probably not going to, because it's just so tricky. And then here we ride the track in the rain, and it took a while to do this because when I first went into the rain, it kind of reminded me of when they added it to the Supercross World Tour tracks. We did the the Japan Supercross track, and I never really got that heavy rain. And I wasn't sure if they added it to this track, but the more I played, it finally did the heavy rain, so you can get... It's just like outside. It's just like the outdoor tracks. You have the heavy rain, and then it kind of fades into a lighter rain, and then no rain really whatsoever. So, yeah, pretty cool. I didn't feel too much drag on the bike when I did this, and I'm kind of glad because it would have been a huge pain to ride this track if it would have had a bunch of drag and felt like you were riding in really deep mud. Some people might like that, but it's just fun to be able to hit the track the same way, but have a different scenario, you know, have the rain and the mud and whatnot. And there is terrain deformation. I just had it turned off for the sake of the video because I just like doing that when I'm trying to get decent laps. And then we hit the small line here, but yeah, the rain's pretty cool, and it is only for this track, Capital City. So pretty sweet, and we're gonna be jumping over into Savannah now. Savannah, this track, we're not quite there yet. A bit too early. I thought we were gonna switch over to it sooner, but here we have Savannah, and this track was done really well too. I don't remember it too well from Unleashed because this isn't a track that I felt like was the best. It's a very, very simple, easy, very short track, right? And it has been remade or reimagined in a past MX vs. ATV game. So, Supercross Encore is one of my favorite MX vs. ATV games. I know a bunch of people don't think that, and that's fine, but I loved it, and I bought all the DLCs, and if you remember from one of the Supercross track packs, there was a track, I believe it was called Savannah, in Supercross Encore as DLC, and it was basically this track. Now, it was a bit different where the tiny whoops are, and the whoops are very, very tiny. Where the little whoops are, that section was a bit different. There was a few different changes, but it was Savannah. So Savannah has been remade in a past MX vs. ATV game as well. So, kind of cool. I don't have a problem with these tracks being remade in past MX vs. ATV games and then having them brought over to MX vs. ATV Legends. It's totally fine. It doesn't bother me whatsoever because they're completely redone. But with Savannah here, it is a very fun track. It's really simple and easy. I guess I'm a little bit surprised. I know they said they ran a poll on Instagram or somewhere, and these were the tracks that you guys, the community, voted for. Savannah's cool, and if you really love this track and it was your favorite one from Unleashed, great, but this wasn't my favorite one, and I feel like they could have done... I mean, there were so many great tracks from Unleashed, and I think... Was it Colorado or Denver? Denver. I think it was Denver. That would have been an amazing track to have brought into the track pack DLC, but remember that stadium was completely different. It ran up all over the place. It would have taken a lot more development to make that track and stadium and everything, and maybe they just didn't have the time or the manpower or whatever. So there's probably reasons why they didn't do it. I know some people are wondering why Fort Dodge 2 isn't in there, and I would assume it's probably for the same reasons, right? So I would guess that's why we got Savannah instead of multiple other MX vs. ATV Unleashed tracks that I could think of off the top of my head that would have been better. I'm not saying they didn't do a good job with this track. I'm just saying it would have been more exciting and more fun in the game if we could have got some tracks such as Denver. Let me know in the comments which track from Unleashed you would have preferred. If you got to this point of the video, which track from Unleashed would you have preferred that they added in? Even if it wasn't a Supercross track, if it was just a motocross track, or if it was a Supercross track, I would be really curious to see, because for me personally, I would choose Denver. Denver for sure. And as far as Capital City goes, I'm fine with that one, but to be honest with you, I would have actually probably preferred Jefferson. I would have preferred Jefferson because I believe that was on my top 9 favorite tracks of all time. So overall, I mean, they did a great job, and these tracks were pretty sweet, and I'm really looking forward to the next set. We've got Sugar Ridge, Sandwick, and Pine Top, baby. Pine Top was like my 3rd favorite track of all time in my top 9 favorite MX vs. ATV tracks, so Pine Top, I want to be picky. We got to be picky here with that track because of, you know, how much that track meant to me in my MX versus ATV playing days, right? So, you guys and girls are absolutely amazing. Thanks so much for the support on the channel lately. It really does mean a lot. And until the next video, take it easy.